And that's where Tom Basile comes in, host of America Right Now on Newsmax, joining us live in the studio now with a closer look at the polling and what that shows. Tom.
That's right, Sean and Emma. It's September. That means that the primaries are just a few months away. We've gotten through kind of the heat of the summer, and we're going to take a look at where the races look, where they stand today. First, that national GOP primary, you can see, as you were just mentioning, this YouGov Economist poll just came out. Donald Trump now breaking 50% in that poll against all of his rivals. And so it does look like we're going to see, at least at this point, a Trump versus Biden rematch, which a lot of Americans say that they're not thrilled with, but that seems to be where the polling is going. Let's take a look at where the head-to-head stands today. Again, a YouGov Economist poll within the margin of error. And this is one of these things that we have seen over and over the last number of months, whether it's Biden slightly ahead or Trump slightly ahead. This is a horse race, folks, and we're going to continue to be following these polls and the trends as we go into the fall and into the primaries here at Newsmax. Now, one of the things that you'll hear me say over and over is that we don't have a national presidential election. We actually have 50 statewide races that make up a presidential election. So we're going to be bringing to you the state polls, and we're going to see more of them as we get into the fall and into early next year. Let's take a look at one that came out in early August in Arizona, key swing state. You see Donald Trump up by 2. He just barely lost the state in 2020. He's up by 2, but again, within the margin of error. Let's go over to Georgia. This one's a little bit older of a poll, but it's important. Now we're going to see the show trial of the century in Georgia unfold potentially over these next number of months. Is this number going to move? Donald Trump ahead by 4 points in this poll in early June, but it was before that fourth indictment. Keep an eye on Georgia. We'll be following the trends there. On over to Michigan. Again, within 1 point, this is a key state, but a state where Donald Trump seems to be holding his own after the loss there in 2020. And this is still a toss-up. Over to New Hampshire. New Hampshire, you got a lot of folks moving from Massachusetts up into New Hampshire over the last few years. That looks like it could be impacting almost permanently the electorate there and how they handle these presidential contests. Joe Biden up in this poll from earlier in August. Pretty significantly. And then one more really key state, Pennsylvania. And Pennsylvania is sort of the granddaddy of the swing states in many respects. Trump ahead there by 2 points, a Franklin and Marshall poll from a couple of weeks back. And again, what you got to start looking at is whether or not, Trump is capable of winning those suburban votes outside of Philadelphia and Pittsburgh that could give him an opportunity to win that state. That's a must-win state for Republicans nationally. And I'm going to give you one more, and this is the generic ballot. There's no good news in here for anybody, guys. There's a tie here, and especially for Republicans who control the House, this is a sign that maybe what they're doing isn't resonating with the public. A generic ballot tie right here. So we're going to continue to follow all of these polls and many more, and watch those trends now as we're moving into the fall here at Newsmax. Yeah,
interesting. The states that you're covering there are very specific, and I wanted to talk to you about that. When you look at national polling, and we talk about that. Not much of an indicator. If you really want to hone in, you want to look at the state polling. Is that correct?
Yeah, the state polling, and you'll get more of that now. It'll be more frequent, particularly in those swing states, as we get closer to the primaries. And it is far more important in many respects than the national polling. And when you look at some of the swing states there, we should also probably add Wisconsin and a couple of others to that. Yeah. So for the viewers out there who are trying to kind of figure out really what's happening here, that's what you should be looking at. And then also, when it comes to these other GOP contenders, are they going to start making the case that, hey, this is too close? We have a historically weak incumbent. this is too close to have all of these within the margin of error in these swing states. So will you see more of them make the case that maybe Donald Trump isn't the person who can win the general election? And does that ultimately have an impact on the GOP primary? Because right now, nobody's moving the numbers.
Yeah, I just wonder, too, in a next round of polling, if you ask for priorities. So, for example, in Arizona, is the top priority for voters immigration? And then you would ask, okay, how did the leading contenders for the race for the White House compare on that, right? If you're looking on who's stronger for immigration, would that motivate Arizonans to come out and vote?
Right.
Whereas in other swing states, maybe climate change is more important than immigration.
And also, the immigration issue is something that I think we're going to also start to see bubble up more and more in blue states. So states that maybe not even are in play in the presidential, but could factor into the control of Congress. Because as you've got governors and mayors in blue cities and blue states, much more liberal territory, pushing back finally on the administration for all the illegals that are coming into their territory.
I'd like to look at Michigan again, if we can. One of the polls that you brought up and showing where that matchup would stand again in Michigan between Donald Trump and Joe Biden here. Again, in the margin of error, as you pointed out here. But moving through, hypothetically, could these numbers change? And how do these charges, I think you can't help but to ignore the 91 charges that the former president and current frontrunner is facing. Michigan's an important state.
Absolutely, and it's a big labor state. And so when you look at Trump's numbers, they're actually, given the fact that it is the home of the United Auto Workers, and it is a much more purple state. It just flipped its legislature. So remember, they now have total Democrat control of the state of Michigan. But for Donald Trump to be holding his own, they're a Republican presidential candidate. That says something about kind of where the electorate may be.
All right, still early on, though.
Absolutely.
And as we know, so much can change. Tom Basile's walking us through these early polls. Thank you very much.